Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. Recently, breaking news, an active shooter in Sebring, Florida. We're going to talk about that. There was another active shooter earlier today in Salem, New Jersey. Big parallels between these two incidents. Michael Cohen, talk about him today. He says he's under threat from Trump, so he's not going to give his testimony on February 7th. Remember, we've been looking at that date, February 7th. Wondering if the shutdown might end that date. But anyway, Michael Cohen says he's under threat from Trump. He's afraid for his family. John Kerry told Trump to resign. We'll get to that. Alec Baldwin back in the news for his scuffle he had just before Saturday Night Live in November. Look at this story. Why are we reading about it today? They're saying they've arrested the man who impregnated a woman in a coma at a health clinic in Arizona. It's more news by the numbers, another national distraction. We'll get to that story. We'll also talk about what's going on with the State of the Union and the back and forth with Pelosi and Trump. Trump says he wants to speak in Congress on the day it's supposed to happen. Big abortion decision yesterday on January 22nd, the anniversary of Roe vs. Wade. We'll get to that. We have a young dead comedian. The details of this man's death are so vague. I went through about 10 news sources, and I could not find the day he died. All the sources are just reporting that his death was confirmed yesterday by, his entertainment company. So anyway, I'll show you what I can see about that in light of the way the news has come. But yeah, another young dead man, no explanation for his death, entertainment industry. They also have a new headline today. They're assuming that this star football soccer player is deceased. They can't find the plane he was on. Covered that yesterday. Some new details today. Have a death of an actor in Brazil today. Dead on a date with 63 numerology. His name's 63. There's a couple other things that are interesting there. Last night, remember how on December 19th, there was the disruption at the Gatwick Airport in London with the drones, and it caused all this commuter chaos. And I said, look at that on the 19th, the chaos number. I said, is this going to become a trend in 2019? Drones disrupting airports? Well, we're about two-thirds of the way through the first month, and we already have our second story in this year of drones disrupting airports. This is a new thing. Now it looks like it's going to become a common trend. Again, they have to cement the problem into our mind so then they can introduce these new laws and regulations for who has drones. We'll get to that. The blackface controversy at University of Oklahoma, this going on during the time of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, his holiday. We'll get to this story. The sisters who were found dead in the Hudson River with the very old-looking images. We have an update in this story. They're now saying it looks like they committed suicide. Show you what's so interesting about this update. Then in case you missed my work on the sports channel last night, we'll just recap Mariano Rivera becoming the first player to get a unanimous vote into the Hall of Fame, and what LeBron James' Jewish money quote has to do with his long absence with his supposed injury, which came in his first game after the Jewish money quote. So covered that last night on the sports channel. Just in case you missed it, we'll recap it at the end. But let's start with this day in history, January 23rd. So on this day in 1845, Congress decided all national elections would be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. And what's interesting about the day they made this decision is it was a date with 87 numerology, and voting has the 87 Gematria. How perfect. On this day in history, Georgetown University was established in present-day Washington, D.C. Fitting date, Washington has that gematria of 130, the city named after George Washington, Georgetown. Jesuits and Scottish Rite Town. FDR on this day announced he was going to run to be the 32nd president in 1932. Again, America equals 32. America established on a date with 32 numerology. I'm noticing that FDR's birth numerology, 1 plus 30 is 31, plus 18 is 49, 49 plus 82 is 131. That's the 32nd prime number. Ended up being the 32nd president. So Roosevelt was 49 years old when he made the announcement, just days shy of turning 50. He turned 57 days later. Notice Roosevelt has the gematria 49 in the base cipher, just like America. And just shy of 50. America also 50. America also 32. America also 139, like Freemasonry. But don't think it was any coincidence the day he announced. In 1933, the 20th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. That's the amendment that moved the inauguration date. Let me just take this call. This guy's been... Hey, are you calling in for the live stream?
Oh, no. No, I'm sorry. How long is about typing going to be up? I'll call you afterwards.
Okay, thank you. All right, take care.
All right, come on. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye. All right, so anyway, on this day in history, the 20th Amendment ratified. It's what moved the presidential inauguration date from March 4th to January 20th. It's interesting that March 4th is the 63rd day of the year, and back to January 20th is 43 days earlier, kind of like how March 4th can be expressed 4/3, Masonics 43. But think about it, the 20th Amendment moved the inauguration day to the 20th day of the year. So you just got to wonder about that. Why was that so important? Why did they need to do that? Of course, we know that they do everything ritualistically. What I always wonder is Illuminati, just using the alphabetic order, equals 120. You got that George Washington letter about Freemasonry being infiltrated by the Illuminati. Is it a tribute to the Illuminati? The puppet president being inaugurated on 120? Also, the day of this decision, January 23rd, 33, 1 plus 23 plus 33, date with 57 numerology, Scottish Rite 57, again, has its headquarters right there in D.C. In Israel, in 1950 on this day, Knesset, which is their version of the U.S. Congress, approved a resolution affirming Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And I've said it 1,000 times. Israel does all of their big plans around the number 93. This was a date with 93 numerology. It was also a date with 21 numerology. Notice Knesset, and our two most easy to understand ciphers, the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules numerology. Knesset 9321. Same as Saturn. Saturn, the keeper of time. No doubt they're doing these things in connection to this old occult knowledge. Saturn, the keeper of time. All these big tributes in time with the same numbers again and again. Israel was drawn up in history on September 3rd, 1947. 9-3, the word time, 47. The date can also be written 3/9, like the 39 books in the Old Testament. El, the god of the Old Testament. El, a name for Saturn. In 1962, Jackie Robinson was elected to Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. What's interesting about that is it was a date with the 105 numerology, and every year Jackie Robinson Day is celebrated on April 15th, which is always the 105th day of the year, except for in leap years. Masonry has gematria of 105, Mason 62. This went down in the year 62. Of course, they put the number 42 on him. We know about the Freemasons in 42, as well as the other side of that number. Don't forget Jackie equals 42. In 1964, the 24th Amendment to the United States Constitution, eliminating the poll tax in federal elections, was ratified. And what's so interesting about that is January 23rd, 1 plus 23, 24. This was the 24th Amendment, and it eliminated the poll tax. Poll tax equals 89. That's the 24th prime number. So what a perfect amendment to eliminate the poll tax. 89, the 24th prime. In 1968, that very infamous year, North Korea seized the U.S. Navy intelligence ship USS Pueblo, commanded by Lloyd Butcher, charging its crew with being on a spying mission. One sailor was killed and 82 were taken prisoner. Commander Butcher and his crew were released the following December after enduring 11 months of brutal captivity at the hands of the North Koreans. And it was 11 months right on the nose. They released them December 23rd after being captured January 23rd, at least so we're told. And this was known as the Pueblo incident, which has that gematria of 68. Don't forget what all went down in the year 1968, infamous year. It also makes me think about how Donald John Trump equals 68 and The Apprentice equals 68. And, you know, Trump, he's having these ritualistic meetings with the leader in North Korea, something that had not happened in some time. But again, it's the New World Order. And this was well after the Korean Wars. The Korean Wars that began on George Orwell's birthday, or what would have been his 47th birthday if he was still alive. Again, the man who wrote the book 1984 about the nation that's always at war overseas. They know they're at war, but they don't exactly understand why, just like the U.S. The name of the ship, the USS Pueblo, Gematria 113, the number of deception. Don't forget Scottish as gematria of 113 as well as 103. In regards to 103, they were released 11 months to the day later on a date with 103 numerology. And it was the Pueblo incident, which also has gematria of 149, the 35th prime. They were released on a date with 35 numerology. Also, I should point out, in light of them saying 1 killed and 82 taken prisoner, that's 83 people. 83 is the 23rd prime. This happened on January 23rd. They're released on December 23rd. I don't think that's an accident. Also on this day in history, rock musician Terry Kath of Chicago supposedly accidentally shot himself at a party in Woodland Hills, California. And again, I'll remind you should check out that movie, The Invitation. I think it gives a big clue about this whole murder by numbers cult in California, especially Hollywood. That film's set in the Hollywood Hills. But notice, he was 31 years old, and he was just shy of his 32nd birthday, which would have been January 31st. He was the guitar player for Chicago. And guitar equals 31. Also, the date he died was a date with 31 numerology. 31. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 8. It was also a date with 121 numerology, and with the alphabetic order, blood sacrifice is 121. So the other thing that's jumping out at me right now is if you just take his initials for his first and last name, T is the 20th letter, K is the 11th. His initials are 31 as well. The name Kath in this same cipher where guitar is 31, Kath is 13, the reflection. Also on this day in history, Salvador Dali died. He died at age 84. What's interesting is from his 84th birthday to the day he died was 257 days later. And blood sacrifice is 257. 257 is also the 55th prime number, and Salvador Dali equals 55. Dead on the 23rd. Both of these men, again, murder equals 83. 83 is the 23rd prime. In 1998, on this date, a judge in Fairfax, Virginia, sentenced Emil Khonkasi to death for an assault rifle attack outside CIA headquarters in 93 that reportedly killed 2 men and wounded 3 other people. 2 and 3, 23rd. The date of the incident was January 25th, 1993. That's the date the actual shooting happened. Wanted to go back and look at this. That was a date with 119 numerology, 119 in 93. And remember, 93, we had the World Trade Center bombing, blamed on Islamic terrorism. You have this incident days before it at the CIA headquarters, blamed on Islamic terrorism. Don't forget that CIA equals 68, so does terror. Like how everything went down in 1968 for 9/11. I'd say all these incidents were just planting seeds in the buildup. The George Bush Center for Intelligence. That's where it happened at. You know, the guy who gave the New World Order speech on September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day. This man's name, Mir Emil Kanzi, at least the way Wikipedia has it recorded, that name has Gematria 58, like Bush, like Freemasonry, like secret society, like George W. Bush. If you'd put the middle name in there as well, Mir Emil Khonkasi, 74, like Masonic, reminding you that the World Trade Centers were on the 74th meridian. Langley, where this happened, Langley, Virginia, the CIA land. Langley has Gematria of 113, like Scottish. Langley, Virginia has Gematria of 84, like Masonry, like United States of America. Langley, Virginia also has Gematria of 165, like Scottish Rite. Again, the Bush family, they got their portraits up in the Scottish Rite headquarters. Also on this day in history, 2005, former Tonight Show host Johnny Carson, dead in Los Angeles at age 79. Johnny Carson was born John William Carson. His name equals 79. So does murder. The day he died, January 23rd, 2005, date with 49 numerology. Tonight Show equals 49. Born on the 23rd of October, dead on January 23rd. From his birthday to his death was his 93rd day of his age. And we know what that number has to do with Saturn, the keeper of time. The word tonight, just using the alphabetic order, is also 93, in light of him being the host of The Tonight Show. So, par for the course, I would say. All right, so here we are. We got 2 active shooters in the news today. The first one came in New Jersey, and then this one just broke, getting more attention this afternoon. Today's date has 43 numerology. And again, here we are in Florida. I just want to say, here we are in Florida again. I mean, if you just notice how many, if you take a percentage of these shootings that make national news, a giant percentage of them are in Florida. And we know who's very present in Florida. Anyway, today's date has the 43 numerology. Florida's 43, so is Sebring, the town this happened in Florida. Active shooter equals 191, which is the 43rd prime. 191, the 43rd prime. Today's date has a life lesson number of 36. They said this turned into a hostage situation where people got shot at the SunTrust Bank. SunTrust Bank 36. Says the police were called at 12:36. Why do we see this again and again? To the minute, the way it's reported. Coding the number that's relevant to the story. Also, this happened in Highlands County. Highlands has that name, Gematria 44, like shooting. Major inconvenience to the people here. They had to shut down the highway both directions. Boatload of police vehicles there. I think it's interesting that this True TV headquarters is right here too. You know, how long till True TV has out the mini documentary on what went down on this date in history? Notice also how Sebring, the town this happened in, overlaps with Masonic. You know, overlap in 3 of the 4 ciphers. Sebring, Florida, 139, like Freemasonry, like America. Definitely not a coincidence. So today, also in New Jersey, similar type of thing, active shooter situation. Again, we have the 43 date, active shooter 191, the 43rd prime. New Jersey's 43. So is policeman, you know, police executing these drills, having some con man go before the media and report them often as real tragedies when they're not. I think sometimes they really are, you know, contriving the tragedy too. I don't know if they're using some MK Ultra patsy or if, you know, they're just putting the police in all black and having them go shoot up the place. Wouldn't put it past a lot of these police officers. They're some of the biggest goons in the planet. But the town this happened in, Salem, 43 is the 14th prime number. So look at our prime numbers. Active shooter, 191, the 43rd prime. New Jersey, policeman, 43. 43, the 14th prime. Salem. Go figure. And I don't know if this is big enough. I don't know if you can make that out. Maybe you can. But if you can see the number on that police bumper right there, it's 113. This was the news at 12:30 on 123. Don't forget conspiracy equals 123. So 113 is also the 30th prime number. Police does have the Gematria 30. Another relevant point there about that number. All right, in other news, Michael Cohen's testimony postponed. He says his family is under threats from Trump and Trump's lawyer. From Trump's birthday to today is 223 days later. Also a span of 224 days. And that matters because lawyer equals 84. The divisors of 84 sum to 224. Cohen says he's under threats from Trump and his lawyer. And with regards to the 223 days, we know all about that number. Masonic is 223. When you take the prime number relationship, 223 is the 48th prime. Donald Trump equals 48. So does Freemason in Hebrew and in English. Today's date also has numerology of 18. The name Cohen's 18, so fitting we hear about him today. From his December 12th sentencing to today is 42 days later. And to the day he's supposed to go to prison, March 6th, is another 42 days later. So, and don't forget that the day of his sentencing was a date with 42 numerology. So here we are right in the middle. Then we get this big episode. He was going to give this testimony that he won't give now because he feels threatened on February 7th. That would have been 57 days after the sentencing, the Scottish Rite number, or a span of 58 days, the big Freemasonry number where Trump is the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election. And again, it just goes to show all the Cohen news by the numbers, and it always points back in one direction, to Freemasonry, which of course is headquartered in Washington, D.C., so what else would it point to? So here's John Kerry, the Skull and Bones member, Mr. 322 himself. Yesterday at Davos, he said Trump needs to resign. And he made these remarks on a date with 42 numerology, Freemason 42. He made them 42 days after his birthday as well. So on a date with 42 numerology, 42 days after the birthday. When you write out 42 as a word, it sums to 74, like Masonic, like Davos. Again, remember how this relationship is biblical too. Like how there's the 42 generations to Jesus. New Testament equals 42. Jesus equals 74. Gospel 74. Messiah 74. Parables 74. Cross 74, etc. Then, of course, John Kerry. He has that name Gematria 47, like the degrees on the Masonic compass. And he didn't make these remarks yesterday, but they're making the rounds in the news today. And that's not by accident. Today has the life lesson number of 36. The word resign has Gematria 36 in both of our reduction-based ciphers. By the way, if you do use the exception on S, resign is 45. And of course, Trump is the 45th president. You know, could he follow in Richard Nixon's footsteps? Remember when he first took office, he blamed Obama for wiretapping, and the whole thing was a big 43 ritual. And we began to draw the parallels between Nixon and Trump. Could he go out in similar fashion? Nixon went out in 74, by the way, like how Davos equals 74. Just type in Richard Nixon's name here. Richard Nixon, 74. He went out in 74 by the numbers. You know, Davos. Be signs. So Alec Baldwin pleads guilty today, harassment and parking spot dispute. We covered this in November when the news broke. Notice Baldwin was born April 3rd. April 3rd, 4-3, Baldwin 43. Today's date, 43 numerology, Masonic 43. Today's date also has the 36 numerology, SNL 36. And this story, it broke November 2nd. Was a Friday just before Saturday Night Live. Of course, Alec Baldwin's playing Trump right now on SNL. His full name has Gematria of 110 like president. SNL has the 45 thing, of course, like Trump number 45. The story came on the day leaving 59 days left in the year, busted by the NYPD 59. And pointed out that from Trump's birthday to this story at the time was 142 days. Baldwin's full name also has the Gematria of 142. Baldwin got busted on November 2nd, 11/2, like 112. Donald 112. So it was also 215 days after Baldwin's birthday and Saturday Night Live 215. Today is the 33rd day of the government shutdown. Just as a reminder, in case you missed yesterday's podcast, there's a chance this ends tomorrow. It'd be the 34th day. Shutdown's 34. It would be January 24th, a date that can be written 1/24. It would be a fitting day for it to end. But I just have this feeling they're going to take it out longer, maybe even to February 7th. So we'll find out soon enough. Be nice for a lot of people who are starving for their paycheck for it to end tomorrow. They're saying this is going to delay people's tax returns. So, you know, a whole lot more people that are going to be inconvenienced now. But what's interesting about this coming on the 33rd day is the State of the Union is often abbreviated SOTU, which has this Gematria 33. Today, Trump put his foot down and saying, I'm going to be there. Nancy Pelosi coming back and saying, no, you're not. So we'll see where this all ends. If the shutdown ends before the State of the Union, he probably will be there. But if it doesn't, I imagine he probably won't. So another top story today, more news by the numbers. A nurse is accused of impregnating a woman in a vegetative state who later gave birth. I mean, this story just doesn't make any sense. It hasn't made sense since it broke. Seems like more tabloid, Esquire type nonsense just to captivate people's minds. Oh my God, how could that happen? Anyway, just look at it. They're saying the man who was accused today, they're saying his name is Nathan Sutherland. Look at today's date, 63 numerology. Nathan Sutherland in our most pure cipher, 63. Today's date also has the life lesson number 36. He works at the Hacienda healthcare facility. Hacienda 36. How perfect. How old is he? A 36-year-old nurse has been arrested on suspicion of impregnating a woman in a vegetative state who unexpectedly gave birth last month at a Phoenix healthcare facility, police said Wednesday. And, to me, this just looks like more divisive propaganda. The man looks like he's, mixed, part Hispanic, Arizona, down there along the border. Media always planting the seeds, reasons to hate people a certain race. Somebody out there is probably reading the story saying, there's more evidence of why we need the border wall, even though the comment wouldn't make any sense. But that's how it goes in America when you listen to most people speak. So, yeah, the stuff's just sick. You just realize, this guy could have, whoever this guy is, he could be, he could be handicapped himself, picked out of a database because he's got the right numbers. Something's definitely going on like that, but it's not hard to see why this news comes today, where the name comes from, where the age comes from. It's just same thing every single day. So if you take a peek with the four-base ciphers as well, you'll notice his first name, Nathan, has the Gematria 58, and so does Sutherland. Number 58, or the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election. Guy who had his first big campaign rally in Arizona, starting with the divisive rhetoric against Hispanic people from the very beginning. That's what I think this story ultimately feeds into. That's the third book I've sold today. It's a slow day, but 3's better than 0. Also, another story making the rounds today. This happened yesterday. Iowa's fetal heartbeat abortion restriction declared unconstitutional. This was done yesterday on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, but it's making the rounds in the news today, January 23rd, 1/23, Roe v. Wade is 123. And just think about it again. Roe v. Wade happened January 22nd, 1973, 1/22. What are the odds that they do this on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade? Probably the biggest abortion headline of the year. And, of course, abortion 122. It just goes to show that all of this stuff is done ritualistically. And then when you learn Gematria, you see why. Again, it's all about divide and conquer. From the very beginning, Roe v. Wade has been a very divisive subject and a very political subject. You go and survey the majority of people who vote Republican. Well, maybe not the majority, but I would guess somewhere around 30% of people who vote Republican, they vote Republican solely based on the issue of abortion, because the Republicans have always been the pro-life party, as they call it. And I used to ask these people, I'd say, do you really think the Republicans are a pro-life party? Especially when I was younger, because I'd say, look, they're advocating for war. They're leading us to war. It's like, how's that fit in with pro-life? But, just more evidence of how ritualistic everything is done by our government. Also interesting, the emphasis in the headline, fetal heartbeat, has the Gematria 52 and 83, like heart is 52 and 83. And the judge who made the ruling, Michael Hupert, Gematria of 74 and 223, Masonic 74 and 223. 223, the 48th prime. This happened in Iowa, 48. Again, Freemason, 48 in Hebrew and in English. This decision was, again, it was declared unconstitutional. This decision was made last year on May 4th, 5-4, and it was declared unconstitutional in Polk County. So Polk has this gematria 54 forwards and backwards, reversing the decision made on 5-4 of last year. Again, you can just see how ritualistic it all is. Meant to get people worked up and continually fighting over the same subjects. I've always told people, if you focus on abortion and just make abortion the issue, you'll never solve the problem. Abortion is just a symptom of the actual problem. And the problem is that we don't have community and that we don't care about each other the way we should. I bet you a lot of women in this world who've had abortions, if they felt that they lived in a community and there was people around them that would help take care of them and their child if they had it, then they'd have the child. It's just that so many people know they're all alone in this world. They're already in a bad spot. They don't want to bring another mouth into this world when they're already having trouble feeding themselves. If we lived in a sensible world, like how people used to once live when society was agriculture-based and people knew their neighbor, it'd be a whole different story. Instead, we're in the capitalistic system. It's all about money and getting ahead and paying the bills and buying stuff. And no local agriculture, depending on big corporations to truck in the food so you can pick it up at the supermarket. This is the crazy world we live in. So another tragic death, comedian, dead at 32. No explanation for the cause of death. And like I said, I went over 10 different news stories just trying to find what day this guy died. And all that everyone's reporting is, his entertainment company confirmed yesterday he's dead. So does that mean he died yesterday, or did he die the day before, or 2 days ago? It was just confirmed that he was dead yesterday. And what's interesting about him being confirmed dead on that date is it was a date with 35 numerology. And look at what's emphasized. Rel with the alphabetic order 35. And what do we know about 35 in entertainment? That's the number that represents Svengali, the evil in the industry. And what I know is Lil Rel, who seems to be, gaining a lot of popularity in recent years, he's the biggest star next to this guy. Lil Rel, he's the funny guy in, what's that movie where he got all the recognition? Oh, no. Get Out. He's the TSA employee, the comedian. And he's starting to show up in a lot of things. So I have a feeling that this man right here, Kevin Barnett, was likely sacrificed for Lil Rel, the star who's on the rise. And I'm just wondering if he died January 21st, because that was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Also, it can be written 1/21, like 121, and blood sacrifice is 121. It's hard to do a good decode on this, though, because all of this guy's information is seemingly missing, unless this website's accurate right here, which says he's born August 7th in 86. If he was really born August 7th and he really did die January 21st, which this website has, what stands out about that is it was 167 days after his birthday, which is the 39th prime number. Dead on MLK Day. Martin Luther King died at age 39. 39. And his birth numerology, August 7th, 1986, is a date with 39 numerology. Again, the segregation era ended in 1939. And Lil Rel, he got famous from the movie Get Out, which wasn't really about segregation, but if you've seen that film, has a major racial narrative. Wealthy white people are kidnapping black people and using them essentially as slaves and house workers and who knows what else. But if these dates are right, 167, the 39th prime on MLK Day. Again, MLK and Malcolm X, both dead at 39. So Lil Rel himself is also 39 years old at this time. The name Barnett has Gematria 46 like sacrifice. But just a reminder about what it is to be in this entertainment industry. The latest headline for the believed to be dead football player is emphasized last goodbye. He played football, or he's from Argentina. Notice last goodbye in Argentina, perfect overlap. Plus there's the 44 there, the big sacrifice number. And in case you missed, what I showed from his birthday to the day his plane disappeared was his 83rd day of his age, football 83, murder 83. January 21st can be written 21/1, and his full name equals 211. Also the day that connects to blood sacrifice. And also on that same day, another dead Argentine football player, an 83-year-old whose name equaled 83. So got to say, what are the odds? What are the odds of both of those things on the same day? Another seemingly death by the numbers, South American actor, 42 years old, dead due to a traffic collision. He's dead today. Date was 63 numerology. His name equals 63. Today also has the life lesson number of 36. A traffic collision is the blamed cause of death. Traffic 63 and 36. And from his birthday, November 20th, to the day he died, 64 days later, Kill has that Gematria 64. Don't forget that tomorrow, January 24th, will be the date with 44 and 64 numerology. And every single month, when that date numerology lines up, it's clockwork for celebrity deaths. Plus, we're here in the time of a major sports championship, and we often see a lot of deaths around sports championships. Tomorrow can be written 24/1, like 241, which is the 53rd prime number. It's Super Bowl 53 that's days away. So I will not be surprised that if at some point tomorrow we get a story of a death of an NFL player, likely a former player. Sometimes even a player that's active in the league dies, which isn't out of the question either. So be looking for that news story. It could come tomorrow or it could come the day after. Sometimes they report these deaths the day after the fact. And I think the New World Order is fully aware that this word is starting to get out there on murder by numbers. I think that's why you see the death of this Kevin Barnett and nobody putting in the article what day he died. So yesterday, last night, New Jersey, Newark Airport, we get a disruption from a drone. Yesterday had the life lesson number of 35. The word disrupt equals 35. Teterboro also has Gematria 46. So does disrupt. So does chaos. And remember, it was December 19th. Began December 19th, the contrived chaos, the travel chaos that had lasted 19 hours at the Gatwick Airport, blamed on a drone. Notice how Gatwick and Masonic were a perfect overlap in all ciphers. And the Masonic motto is order out of chaos. And we said that day, is this going to become a theme in 2019? Is this the way they're going to introduce legislation to say who can own and use and operate drones? And since then, we've seen one of these incidents at Heathrow Airport, also in the UK, a drone sighting, which had Gematria 67, the 19th prime, go figure. And now the first incident that I've seen in the United States, just yesterday, at the Newark Airport. So I have a feeling we're going to start hearing about this very often. And just think about what a joke it is, just continually inconveniencing people just so that the powers that shouldn't be can have an excuse to make the changes they want in the world. At University of Oklahoma, there's been a national news story going on for more than a week now about a blackface incident. Well, that didn't make it bigger. The Oklahoma University Black Student Association addressed this on January 18th, 2019. And what stood out to me about the date that they addressed the blackface incident is it was a date with 38 numerology. 38. Africa equals 38. Blackface is part of old minstrel shows. Minstrel has the Gematria of 38. And I just think that's where they're going with this. And again, this is coming on during the time of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, just before his national holiday. And they always bring up racially divisive stuff around his birthday. It's just clockwork every single year. Every year. It just never ends. And it's just so transparent if you're actually thinking about what they're trying to do. I would just love to, that's why this work's got to grow so that we can get a real news team. What we need to be able to do is travel. Like, I'd love to be traveling to University of Oklahoma, finding this student, interviewing them, see what information they can reveal, who's their daddy, who's their mama, what's really going on? Where do they find these people to participate in these news stories year after year? The Saudi sisters, it began as news by the numbers. They said these women were found dead in the river October 24th, 2018. River equals 74. October 24th, 2018 was a date with 72 numerology. And from the death to the breaking news, which came last night, January 22nd, that they committed suicide, it was a span of 91 days. They said these women were from Fairfax, Virginia, not far from CIA land. And Fairfax, Virginia, also 91. 91, the 13th triangular, 13 weeks. They're Saudis. Remember, Saudi Arabia is 41, the 13th prime. So I'm not sure where they're going with this story still. This was popular at first during the whole Jamal Khashoggi thing. I often think these propaganda-based stories, sometimes they're signals and clues for something larger to come. Saudi Arabia, New York, 9/11. Where's this going? So I'm just keeping my eye on it. Remember, they said the women were 23 and 16, 39 years of age, found in New York, the land of 39. And again, just those images. They're looking like they're from decades ago. Speaking of New York, Mariano Rivera, closer for the Yankees, the first player to ever get a unanimous decision into the Hall of Fame. And what's so funny about this is it came 54 days after his birthday, the big baseball number, 54 outs in a complete game. Came on a date with 42 numerology. NYC is 42. Rivera wore the number 42. Came on a date with a life lesson number of 35, Mariano 35, and the name Rivera and unanimous are perfect. And somebody said to me yesterday that unanimous vote, I didn't even check. But yeah, they're right. Unanimous vote, 54 as well. 54 days after his birthday. And you know what? That was a good call by this person. If you write it in baseball, it's also 162, like the 162 game season. Just in case you don't know this, Major League Baseball at the alphabetic order is 162. But I see something else here. Unanimous vote, 72. Look at his name and the position he played, closer. Mariano Rivera, 72, closer, 72. So great observation by the person who noticed that. First ever unanimous vote. Perfect. Of course, he's a New York Yankee, the most dominant team in MLB history. And LeBron James is nearing his return. He'll likely come back against the Suns. And if he does, just remember this. He got a lot of attention on Christmas Eve for posting on Instagram some rap lyrics that said he was getting that Jewish money. And of course, since LeBron has been born, Jews have run the NBA out in the open. David Stern was the commissioner when LeBron James was born in '84. Jewish money, Jewish money. Everybody wrote about it. And when LeBron got hurt, which was on Christmas Day, the day after the news broke, the criticism for the Jewish money, it was his 34th game of the season. His 34th. He turned 34 years old 5 days later. He hasn't played yet at age 34. He's sitting out with an injury 34, collecting his Jewish 34 money. And when he does return, it'll be his 35th game of the season. King James is 35. He's likely going to return against the Suns, 35. And when he does return, if it is against the Suns, it'll be a span of 34 days from the injury. So check out my video on Gematria FX Sports. There's a few more things about that January 27th date that matter. But no doubt about it, he is getting that Jewish money, and he's playing in these Jewish leagues that are scripted just that way. From the final scores to the box scores to the fake injuries and more. So I think I hit everything I wanted to talk about today. If anybody wants to call in, the number is 509-731-0567. I know what else I can mention is at Facebook at Daily Dose of Gematria. Get in contact with Rich. He now has the packs of 500 business cards to help spread this research of Gematria. If anybody wants that, you need to go to Daily Dose of Gematria, get in contact with Rich, who's the founder of the page, the administrator. Do right here and come and send a message and say, hey, Rich, how can I get some of those cards? I'd like to help spread the word. And appreciate what Rich is doing over here. He's also looking for more administrators. A lot of people say they don't want to go on Facebook, but I'll remind people, we should just be filling up all the social media platforms. Everywhere we can get the word out, that's where we can wake up one more person each day. So, and I need to get better about using the other social media platforms too. I could get a lot better myself. So find Rich, Daily Dose of Gematria. Looks like we don't have any callers today, which is fine because I got the radio show tonight. Don't forget TFR Live every Wednesday night. Just go to tfrlive.com at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. My face will pop up right here. And you'll just click Listen Live, and you'll be tuned into the Gematria Effect. And what this website does is over the course of the week, after my show airs, it'll become the top post right here, and then you can listen live. By Wednesday this time, it sinks to the bottom because it hasn't ran for the whole week, so you have to go find the show, but you can still listen to last week's show. Here it is right here. You can always listen for free to the last show up to 10 days after it airs. Just go to On Demand, Listen Now. You can listen to this episode. And if you want to listen to all the archived episodes, and it goes beyond just my page, but if you want to listen to all archived episodes, you have to be a signed up member for TFR. And if you sign up at my page, if you decide to sign up, I get 50% of your donation price, which is pretty generous. So no pressure to sign up. It's free to listen to. But if you want to listen to all the old archived episodes, you just got to be a member. All right, Truth Seeker. We'll leave it there. Be back tonight. Again, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. It's a 3-hour program every Wednesday night. It's a caller-friendly program. That's the other thing you should probably know. If you want to call in, you just go to tfrlive.com. And along the right side of the page, if you just scroll down, the number to call in. So if you want to talk, this is where if you just want to listen. You got an iHeartRadio or TuneIn. You can also listen through those devices. All right, Truth Seeker, we'll leave it there. Until next time.